Okay.
That was the night that Gar had threw his stick and it hit Dave in the back.
Oh yeah.
It stuck between his back and his guitar strap. And he didn't know what happened at first. And finally the roadie showed him what happened. He saw the drumstick and then he just turned around and stared at Gar for like 2-3 minutes, not saying a word. Because we thought the tour was over that night and we still had a lot left. So I was like, look, I don't want this tour to end. Let me talk to Dave. I can talk to him. So me, Dave, and Mike Schnapp went into the back of your tour bus, and I tried to calm him down, and that's what he asked me. He's like, hey, I can't take these guys anymore. He's like, do you want to play? And our second album had just come out. So I was like, look, man, our second album is pretty good. I really, I'm just going to stick with these guys, I think.
The David Ellefson Show. Featuring Grammy Award winner David Ellefson and respected metal journalist Joshua Toomey. Presented by EllisonEmporium.com. Here is David and Joshua.
Hey, David Ellefson here. Joshua Toomey, my co-host. Hey, I'm actually sporting your shirt here.
I see that. That's nice.
Super awesome, super metal. And our guest, Bobby Gustafson, joining us today. So, Bobby, how are you, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
I am well. You may know him from Overkill, of course. I know him as just a dude. We were just talking about our friend Metal Maria Ferraro, who we had on the show, who gave some awesome stories about Johnny Z, Metallica, the origin story of Megadeth, and Josh, you've worked with her a lot, of course, right? As
I have.
Yeah.
Interviewed Bobby once before, so nice to talk again.
Same here. Yeah, Maria's got it's like that old saying, all roads lead to Rome.
Yeah.
Well, in metal, all roads lead to Metal Maria.
They totally do, man.
She's had her hand helping every band.
Yep.
Every band owes her a little bit of something.
Yep. 100%. Yep, she's super great. So I know she'd send these photos. We were just talking a minute ago. She'd send these photos over, and it'd always be like you and me and Dave and Maria. Like I remember there's this one where we're like on a boat, and I don't know like where in God's name that would be. The boathouse in Norfolk, Virginia. I don't know where in God's name it would be. Hawaii. I have no idea. She was in Hawaii. Yeah.
I remember we went to like Knott's Berry Farm once, but I don't remember a boat. Oh
my God, that's right. I remember
the roller coaster.
Was that in California?
Yeah, that was one of them. That might have been the same trip. That was about that same time. I got pictures of that. I think I sent you a couple for the book.
Oh, then that's what it is. You know what? Send them over so we can put them up on the podcast. That's probably what it is. Because it's funny to look back on.
We might have wound up on a boat on that day. Who knows?
Anything was possible. So, what have you been up to since? Of course, a lot of people know you from Overkill. You just played in Vio-lence for a little while. What else has been going on in your world musically? I guess speaking.
Yeah. I mean, that was the last thing pretty much was Vio-lence. I mean, I did the Satan's Taint stuff, but that was really just for fun. I tried to, do a band with some local guys just to get them out, get them recording and do something, guys I jam with here and there. But I've been working on Pain Ward, which is the new band, for a while now, pretty much since I left Vio-lence. I got songs done, just trying to get a band together. It's kind of hard these days. You'd think with the internet and all the people you can reach, it would be a lot easier, but it seems a little harder these days because so many people are in like 5 bands.
Yeah.
Right.
It's hard to get like one guy, especially in South Florida, which has always been hard. But it's just difficult to get somebody. But we were last person we need right now. I'm trying a singer that was a friend of mine from years ago up in New York, and the last slot to fill, I guess, would be a bass player.
Wow. Nice.
Good to go.
Well, it's funny you're on a podcast with two bass players. So
Right,
Yeah.
you got two of them right here.
seems
Pick
like
one.
bass players are falling off of trees these days.
And David is
Not
familiar
here.
with the David's familiar with the Overkill catalog. Obviously, both you guys have played in Overkill at this point now too. So
Yeah, right. So did
So,
Phil.
when you were, yeah, exactly. When we met back in, so I moved to LA in '83. That's when I met Dave, Maria, same summer. You were already in Overkill at that time. When did Overkill get started, and when did you get started with it? I guess.
I think they started locally. They were just a cover band, maybe like 81.
Okay.
81 to 82, they were playing out. I had never seen them, but I always had seen the advertisement. They had a little business card advertisement that they put in every month in this local paper that told you all the clubs and who was playing. And through a friend, I got an audition. He knew they needed a guitar player.
Mhm.
I was still in high school. It was my last year of high school. So it was 82. And then I officially joined, I think, by like November 82.
Okay.
And, we went through the same cover songs everybody else did at the time. And then we tried a second guitar player, but nobody was working out. So I just took it over myself and said, hey, we should just start writing originals.
Mhm.
So we jumped into originals. And by August of 83 was our first show. So I graduated high school in June. Our first show was in August of 83.
I actually had a question for both of you kind of regarding that, because David, you obviously joined or formed Megadeth when you're roughly 18. Bobby, you joined Overkill when you're 17. Talk about kind of joining a band at such a young age that goes on to do, such big things that, you didn't have to you weren't 28, 29, 30 before you got the big break. You're kind of right out of the gate doing something something big.
Yeah, they're like 6 years older than I was. I was pretty much the youngest guy in the band, but yeah, I mean it literally happened pretty quick. I mean, Johnny Z had come to see us perform January of 84, and he just said we weren't ready yet. Then by the end of 84, he saw us again open up for Anvil, and he signed us that night. So within a short period, I mean, metal and thrash was taking off at that time. So everyone was trying to grab somebody, and it was a few bands were a little bit before us, but we were right there. I mean, it took us almost a year before we even went into the studio to record the first album. So there was kind of a lot of wasted time, but we were right there with everybody.
So what do you think, so it's interesting. When 84 is when we signed our deal with Combat, we started to record Killing Is My Business in December, came out in June of 85. So, same thing, right? You play the select places, the good places, the right looks and everything. So for you guys, what changed from January to later that year when Johnny saw you and signed you? What was the difference?
We were just constantly booking our own shows. We made sure that we played every weekend. So we had something going on every weekend. And I think we just got tired. That was a really bad show. Like, there was a club in the middle of New Jersey, and it was a snowy January night. So there was really nobody there but the Old Bridge Metal Militia and Johnny Z. So it just was not great. I remember Blitz he drank a little too much, and I think he spit one of the guys' faces from the Old Bridge Metal Militia. They were not happy. So that didn't
Sounds like the
well.
band I was in.
So yeah, you played there too. I know you played the show place probably. But
Was that the City Gardens?
no, that was Trenton.
That was Trenton. Okay.
This was closer to like the middle of the state, like north and west of the city.
Okay.
But we just got much tighter playing every weekend between January and October, and we were just on fire. We opened up for Anvil, and even Anvil said, "My God, you guys were like amazing tonight." And Johnny happened to come back and give us that second try, and he signed us.
Yeah. So it's funny with that, because it's funny that Megadeth, Overkill get signed at the same time. You know, in a way, we were maybe a little late to the party, right? Because by this time, and even Exodus, I guess, was, even though Exodus was in the Bay Area scene, I mean, they were really the ones, you know, with the flag planted in the Bay Area before Metallica got there, right? We had Gary Holt on the show. He gave us a good history of kind of the timeline of all that. But it's funny how we, you know, it sounds like, you know, you Overkill was kind of first in the water as a cover band, but then you know, you guys and Megadeth, we were a little later to the party. I mean, Anthrax had been signed, right? Johnny had signed Anthrax, signed Metallica. Brian Slagle had already worked with Slayer. You know, let's refer to the big six, right? The big four plus Overkill and Exodus, right? Let's just go there, right? So out of the six, right? You know, it's kind of funny how our bands were kind of almost a little later to the party, right? And you know, were you, obviously we were all paying attention to what everybody was doing because the fanzines were big and we were connected, right? It was a very connected scene back then. But you know, we were never influenced by any of that stuff. How about you guys? Were you taking influence from, hey, Metallica's doing this, we should do that, or hey, Anthrax is doing this, we should do that, or how did you guys sort of cast your direction there?
I mean, I remember going with the guys there was a Route 18 flea market in Jersey. Johnny was still working there, and we were bringing our demo tape to him. And he's telling us about Metallica. He's like, I'm signing these guys. He had the Life to Leather cassette.
Mhm.
Like, this is the next big thing. This is the next big thing. We had our own influences. I mean, we did the whole Maiden, Priest, Motorhead type of thing like everybody else did. But I don't think we were influenced by them too much because we were at pretty much like you said, we were at the same time. I mean, we went from January '84 to having him come out and see us and not get signed to getting signed in October. But then we had to wait all the way to August before we went into the studio because he had other bands ahead of us. So we wasted almost a full year before we went in, which in that time we even wrote more songs. But you know, we were just doing what we did. I mean, Anthrax was from our town. I had never seen them play at all until like after they had come out.
Yeah.
You know, it just they never played where I was or whatever, but I had never seen them. But you know, we were all there. I mean, we had contracts too from Combat. We got 3 at the same time, and Johnny Z's just seemed to be a lot thicker with Megaforce than the others. I mean, big difference in the size of the contract. So we kind of lean more towards him. You know, thank God we did, but you know.
Yeah, no. Well, there was the usual suspects, right? So there's Combat, there's Johnny Z with Megaforce, there's Brian Slagle. There was, you know, Case Wrestles with Sir, but they were, you know, from Denmark, so that was rough. But he was at least in the game, right? He was throwing a line in. Who else? Who else was?
There was Torrid, I think, was the other one that was hitting
that?
at the same time. But like I said, the contracts were just so small. I mean, the first thing we actually did was with Metal Blade. We were on that Metal Massacre 5.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think we ever got a contract from them. We're really concentrating on Johnny because he was local and Metallica took off immediately. So we were in the mindset that, hey, this guy knows what he's doing and he's got his hand also what's happening.
Well, really, Brian Slagle was the LA guy, West Coast guy. Johnny was the East Coast guy. You know, Combat, I don't think they gave a shit about any rock bands. They just somehow got in they were in the mix in a way. You know, of course, Mike Varney, you know, he had Shrapnel Records, but he was bringing over more, you know, individual solo artists, you know, Yngwie, guitar players like that, I think, right? He wasn't so much maybe for thrash bands, but so fast forward. So, you know, we did obviously the Killing or the Peace Cells tour. What record was that? Because we 1987 we did that whole U.S. tour. We ended in Hawaii with the Necros. What album was that for you guys?
we just had finished our second album. We did Taking Over.
That was it. Okay,
That
got
just
it.
come out, and yeah, our tour with you finished in we were in San Jose, and remember you guys didn't play.
Really?
That
So you
was
okay?
the
So
last
wait a
show
minute.
of the
So
tour.
so
Guys
you
came.
didn't go to Hawaii? You didn't go to Hawaii?
No.
Okay, got
Rat
it. Okay,
was
maybe
quitting.
that was okay.
That
So
was the
Rat
last
Skates was
show.
quitting.
Yeah.
Jesus. So Rat Skates is out. That was Gar and Chris's last show.
Yep.
Wow, man, it was like the fucking car was just running into a wall and knocking everybody out. So wait a minute, why did we not play in San Jose? What happened? I don't remember this.
I don't know. It was the last show. I've got pictures of us hanging out. We were drinking by the RV. Something happened. You guys just wanted to go home, I think, at that point. And
Yeah.
we weren't going to play either, but they convinced us to play that night, and it wasn't great.
So you
guys
played
probably-
without us? You
Yeah.
played? Wow.
The
Well, we
club
were
owner-
heroin addicts. We were heroin addicts. We probably wanted to go home and score before we go to Hawaii because Hawaii's a long ways away, and we didn't know anybody who had heroin over there. So we probably had to go home and cop and then get well and go to Hawaii. You know. So
Probably.
wow. So you got what was the venue? Was it San Jose? Got him.
Oh God,
This
it was a small little club.
Yeah.
I couldn't ever remember the name if I looked it up somewhere, but
Yeah.
So Bobby,
Yeah,
was this the time where Mustaine would have asked you to join Megadeth, where with those guys leaving and you possibly coming in?
it was earlier in the tour. We were at Philadelphia at the Trocadero.
Mhm.
Okay.
That was the night that Gar had threw his stick and it hit Dave in the back.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It stuck between his back and his guitar strap. And he didn't know what happened at first. And finally the roadie showed him what happened. He saw the drumstick, and then he just turned around and stared at Gar for like 2-3 minutes, not saying a word.
Yeah.
And he just, I just talked to Mike Schnapp because he's working on a book himself, and he was the only other person in the back of the bus because we thought the tour was over that night, and we still had a lot left. So I was like, look, I don't want this tour to end. Let me talk to Dave. I can talk to him. So me, Dave, and Mike Schnapp went into the back of your tour bus, and I tried to calm him down, and that's what he asked me. He's like, yeah, I can't take these guys anymore. He's like, do you want to play? And our second album had just come out. So I was like, look, man, our second album is pretty good. I really, I'm just going to stick with these guys, I think. And,
Right.
Then I never wound up doing it.
Well,
But-
plus you got a foretaste of all the drama if you wanted to come over and join this band. And yeah, I remember the Gar throws the drumstick at Dave. It's sticking out of his guitar strap like a little Indian with an arrow sticking out of his back kind of thing, or a cowboy with an arrow coming out of his back. Yeah, then the Dave's flying V goes into Gar's kick drum. Broken bottle fights backstage. Yeah, it was all going on. Yeah, and Schnapp. I want to have Schnapp on the podcast because I know the book you're talking about he's got great stories, and he seems to remember during these boots are made for walking, and me and Gar are still out on stage playing, or I'm at least out there by myself, playing the intro to these boots for like 10 minutes. Well, you guys are in the back of the bus having this international summit, trying to keep the tour together, trying to keep Megadeth from breaking up. Meanwhile, I'm like, all right, is anybody coming back out here? What's going on? So it's one of those.
I remember hearing the glass breaking, and I took my head up, and Gar came into my dressing room, and he's just standing there laughing. He was like, he hears all the commotion going on, and Dave yelling, and he's just in the room laughing. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So luckily, you guys kept it together enough. You did the next album. I possibly could have been on that, but like I said, at that point, I didn't think that there'd be anything after that. So I was like, this may not be a good choice.
Yeah, well, look, it's funny because we come home. So I guess you guys played San Jose. We didn't. I'm sure we flew back to LA, and then we flew out to Hawaii, Gar and Chris. It was clearly the end of the beginning, and so they would be gone. shortly after. We did get to go in the studio though and record These Boots Are Made for Walking for Penelope Spheris for that movie Dudes that she did with John Cryer and Lee Bing and Flea. So we did get one final recording from those guys, which sounded really good. And I just digress here for a minute because it just goes to show, a band on the road working, how much better you are, right? Like, here we are recording that song 2 years later from when we originally recorded it, and it was great, so much better. But yeah, so that was that, and then we're back in LA. Our drum tech Chuck Wheeler's now the drummer, and we start writing. So far, so good. So what? So what did you do then? So you get home. No, it's funny because I've seen Rat Skates over the recent years down in Ocean County, Jersey, where he lives, and where I spent some summers there as well. So got to see him. The Born in the Basement DVD that he did, which I thought was kind of cool. It's kind of your story. It was the Overkill story. So what did you guys do then after that? So I guess you guys went back to Jersey, got a new drummer? Is that what happened?
Well, yeah, I mean, right after that show, my brother he happened to live down in like Bellflower. So I didn't want to drive back in the RV all the way back to New York. So I went to his house to hang with them for a little bit. And management actually thought that I left the band. They thought that I left to join you guys, and I was just taking like a break. So we came back. We wound up auditioning people at L'Amour's. We got this guy Mark who filled in for a little bit. He did a small U.S. tour with us in Testament, and I think he was there for the Christmas on Speed show that we did in England.
In England, yeah. So that would have been December '87.
Yeah, so that's when you guys had introduced us to Nick. He was the roadie at that point for Chuck.
Yes, exactly.
And he's like, you should hire this guy to play with you guys. And I wound up talking to him many years ago, just before his death, and he was saying how much he regretted. The first thing he said to us was, how much money am I going to make? And we weren't really making nothing at the time. So we kind of figured like, all right, this guy's not going to work out for us. So we kept him for a bit. And then we wound up auditioning drummers again. And that's how we ran into Sid. And then we started working on the third album.
Right. And then
third album's got, Hello from the Gutter on it, kind of takes off MTV, kind of talk about that era of the band, kind of, the video of, Welcome to the Gutter kind of taking off on MTV.
Yeah. Sid was a great drummer. His timing was much better than Rat's. So we got tighter. We got much tighter as a band, got tighter on that entire album. We had a video. We actually used for In Union We Stand, which was our first video. We used the same guy that you used on Wake Up Dead.
Randy Burns?
He came out to New York and he recorded our first video.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if you do that.
Oh, wait, then, the video. Wait, the video or the album? The video?
The video.
So not Robert Longo or
I don't remember their names.
Huh. Yeah. Then Penelope Spheris did some videos for us. Huh. Okay. Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So there's a connection. Yeah.
Same sort of blue look to it. But then we did that third album. We did our second video, which was Hello from the Gutter, and it just happened to be that MTV started the Headbangers Ball a little bit before, but it really took off at that point. And there wasn't a lot of videos, so we were getting rotation like crazy.
Right.
And that really helped us. And I don't know if you remember this. They had something called Smash or Trash.
I do.
Yeah, they would play the video, and if it got enough smash, they said they would play it in the day. We broke the record for votes on Hello from the Gutter for smash. And they wound up not playing it during the day. They're like, we can't play it during the day. We're like, why not? There's no curse words. They never did it.
Really? I remember the elimination video was so good, and you went through all these different costume changes, right? You did all these different personalities. So what was that about? Because I thought that was super cool.
I don't know. I mean, I mean, I wanted to do a version of the back of the album, which was half our face was shaded. So I kind of wanted to do that with the video. And he gave us the right look for that. And that, you're doing those things for 12 hours over and over and over. So about probably 2/3 of the way through, I just like pulled my hair back, put it in the ponytail, just grabbed the other guitar just to be different from the other scenes. And they wound up using a little bit of each. But yeah, it just happened to be one of those things. I just fucking tied my hair back and used the black guitar, and they used it.
Yeah, because part of you look like you're in Sha Na Na. You're doing like this full 50s greaser look, right? And then you've got like you're like a thrash dude, a greaser dude. That was great, man.
Fucking Hetfield kept calling me the guy from Village People.
Like you did have a little bit of that.
Funny, the other look with the white Explorer though has a nice Hetfield look to it at the time,
Oh yeah, those I still have those two guitars. Yeah, they're great. Those Gibsons were great, man.
With the go with the let's talk about this real quick with the the Death Bat. The obviously Avenged Sevenfold comes out years later with very similar logo. Have you ever commented on that with the similarities in the logos there?
I never really commented about it, I think, but I found out recently that the band actually sued them over that, and they won. Wow.
Okay.
So I think they got a bunch of money from suing them. And I've seen some things where they took our logo and that logo and just put them on top of each other, and they were like exact. We had these comic book writers from Minneapolis, Fasner and Larson, that came up with that bat, and they just took it. And people tried to tell them, look, a skull with wings was our little mascot. So,
right.
For them to use it and just disregard everybody telling them was stupid. So I'm glad they won at least that.
Yeah. Now you auditioned, or at least were in a consideration, probably just as a friend, when James burned his arm, right? For when they had to get, I guess John Marshall from Metal Church ended up ultimately playing guitar for him. But I was talking to Andreas too, and he, I think, may have been in the running at one point. It was probably the same time, I guess. There's probably a few of you. I mean, now everybody's friends with Metallica, right? So they had a lot of options, and you were close with those guys. So we're just talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, they had called me one night about 11 o'clock at night. Tony Smith, who worked for them, told me what happened, and he gave me the entire set list to learn, which was about 18 songs.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than giving me the 5 that they were going to test me on, he gave me the whole set list to learn. I'm friends with them. I'm a big fan of them, but I don't sit down and learn other people's music. So I may have known bits and pieces here and there. Plus the Black Album was very new, so I really wasn't, concentrating on learning anything from that. I had my own band at the time. I think it was a Friday night, because Saturday night I had my own show, and then Sunday I was supposed to fly out. I tried as much. I didn't cancel my show. I tried to learn as much as I could. And Sunday I was at Newark Airport, and there was a downpour for about 10 minutes. So it delayed the flight for 4 hours. So by the time I got to Denver, I mean, James was in so much pain that he couldn't wait. They were waiting for me, but he couldn't wait any longer. So what I tried to do is try and, work off the vocals. I'm like, let me learn the vocals, and I can hear the parts and changing and all that stuff. The next morning, he didn't come in because he was still in so much pain. So it was just basically, the 4 of us without James. As expected, it wasn't that great. I knew, Creeping Death, I got through, and Jason was just like, he's like, man, you got that down picking down, don't you? I was like, yep. So I mean, that was good, but some of the other songs I really didn't know. And then as I had left was Mike from Flotsam and Jetsam was coming in after me.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew him, and I kind of knew all along Marshall would get it because he's been there before.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah, they flew me out to Denver. We were actually in the stadium out there, in some offshoot room where they had set up, and they just auditioned us there, and then they went out and talked, and I just feel it didn't go great. Then I just spent too much time trying to learn everything instead of just a few, which is what I should have did. But
so they were on tour. They were on tour with Guns N' Roses at that time? Is that right?
Yeah.
And so did they cancel any shows, or did they just
they took
keep
like
going?
a 2-week hiatus, I think, but then they went back and fulfilled everything.
Okay.
They just took the time off for him to, get another guitar player, and then they went back out.
Yeah.
But
So, it's interesting how you talk about that, because, I've told this story that, there's a chasm, after Newstead left, before they got Robert in the band, who's going to be the new bass player. And, so I sat down and learned a few songs as well, because same thing, like I got my own band, I'm in Megadeth, we're making records, we're touring. I know Metallica songs. I know them. I'm a fan of their music, of course, but not with bass in hand, right? It's like you, right, with the guitar in hand. And I thought the same thing. To me, it was all centered around the vocals, which I found very interesting. When I finally got a bass in my hand and I sat down and even learned stuff off the Black album, everything really, and maybe just because that's how I always heard it on the radio and whatnot, it was always, things are centered around the vocal. But even to learn the riffs and learn the song, everything was based really around the vocal. And I thought maybe if I just kind of hook on the vocal here, the rest of the parts will come. But I found his phrasing was so different, as opposed to how Dave put his, lyrical phrasing over top of our Megadeth riffs, right? It was two totally different bands. Probably like it was for you, Overkill. You're in the same genre, but Overkill has a very, how Bobby and you guys worked was probably very different than how things were with Metallica. Am I right?
Yeah, it's a little different, I think, when you've got to sing and play. So that's what I figured. James kind of follows it a little bit. The one thing I've always said about Dave is that I watched you guys from the side. I've watched him over the years. He's pretty much the only one that I know that can just sing and play completely opposite things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how he does it. It's amazing to watch, but he's really, really great at that. A lot of guitar players will follow the chords and sing within the breaks of the chords, but Dave just sings over crazy shit. It's just amazing to watch how different he was. But at least with us and Blitz having one guitar player, he was kind of free in that sense to sing whatever he wanted to. He didn't have to follow me as much. To me it's difficult to sing and play. So other people are maybe more natural, but yeah, wound up in the end it didn't matter. It didn't help anyway.
I mean, that kind of sounds like what you were talking about, Ellison, the other day with, I think you were writing Angry Again. And you're like, how are you going to sing over that, Dave? And he's like, let me do what I'm doing. Just let me do what I'm doing.
Yeah, 99 Ways to Die. Yeah.
99 Ways to Die.
I was like, where the fuck is going to be a melody over that? You know what I mean? But no, you're right. Dave had a very good sense of that.
Yeah.
I don't know how other singers work, playing with Bob, when I filled in for Dee Dee last year for a month, me and Bobby mostly just kind of shot the shit and getting caught up on old times. But I did ask him, I said, how do you write? Because there's a new record that they had at the time. And he's saying, how do you come up with your lyrical themes? And it's funny, he disclosed, I don't know if he did this when you guys were working together, but he goes, sometimes I'll just kind of start getting a melody, maybe some word vowels and things come together, and then I start writing the lyrics around that. And I've done that as well, especially when someone else, I remember like with Metal Allegiance, we had a song, Wait Until Tomorrow or something. And it was because Portnoy, we wrote the song together, and then Portnoy went in and shot a video just on his iPhone of him sort of singing a melody. Right until tomorrow. Right. And I hit him. I said, did you say wait until tomorrow? He goes, I don't know, to kind of create a melody. And so I basically wrote that lyric, the wait until tomorrow. I wrote it off of like, that's a really cool line that story could develop out of that, right? And I do that even with the Ellison Soto stuff too. I did that a bit. Andy, our guitar player, would just sort of scat some vocal melody sort of forming vowels, da 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 ba ba, right? And and so it's interesting to hear that Bobby did that too, because I haven't met anyone else who has done that, who takes sort of a melody idea. There's vowels. 'Cause let's face it, what we hold are vowels. A, E, I, O, U. You know what I mean? Those are what we hold. So was that kind of a writing style with you guys? Like, were you writing the riffs, bringing them into the band, you and Dee Dee together, whatever, and then Blitz would sort of come in after the fact? Like, how was your writing style with that?
Yeah, I usually wrote the songs and had a song title as well. And Bobby he seemed like he had a whole book full of stuff that he would write. Like, he was always jotting stuff down, making stories, getting a line, getting a this, getting a that. And when the song would be complete, he would go through the list of stuff that he had and either find out what would fit to the song title or the melody of the riff and add to it or take away from it till it worked. Because he had a lot of stuff to choose from. So he would just go through shit until he found something. And that's how most of it was done with us back in the day.
Which today is the beauty of the memo pad in your iPhone, right? It's always I've got pages of stuff in there. You're like, hey, that's a good line. Yeah, that's a cool story. You hear something on TV or whatever, and you go to the movies and you hear like a cool line. That's a good idea. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think it is like that, right? That it's like you sort of, just little memory joggers and things, right? So,
I mean, yeah, like now if I hear something being said or on the news or whatever, I'll jot it down. As long as I get a story and I got an image of a story, something in my head, I can write the words to it.
Yeah.
So the mid 90s, you kind of go ahead, David.
Go ahead, Josh. No, go ahead, Josh.
Well, I was going to say the mid 90s, you pop up kind of in the industrial world with Skrew. How did you run into those guys and kind of getting into that world for a little bit?
I wound up with them through Debbie Abono because I went to California with Billy Milano. We were supposed to do an MOD record. So we went out to California to go play with Perry Strickland because Vio-lence had, I think, just collapsed. So we went out there. We were out there 2 weeks. We paid for an apartment for 2 months. And like within 2 weeks, Billy's like, Johnny Z's not giving us any money. I'm going home. So I was like, he's like, you coming? I'm like, no, I feel like, I'm going to stay here for a little bit. So I stayed there. And then through Debbie, she had me move into her house after the 2 months were up. I became friends with the family and wound up being there for like 2 years or more. But she had managed a bunch of bands at the time. She had she had helped out all the Bay Area bands, obviously. But one of the bands was like Obituary and Skrew and Acoustics and a few others. And Skrew they were in the studio and their guitar player quit as they were in the studio in El Paso. So through Debbie, they asked, hey, does he want to play? So I learned their songs. They flew me to El Paso, went right into the studio, did my tracks on the songs. Then they said they were going out on tour with Creator. Do you want to play? I'm like, hell yeah. So I just stayed in, they lived in Austin. So I went back with them in Austin and I spent almost the next year in Austin, Texas to do that tour. And then I think I left after the American tour. They went to Europe. I'm not sure who they played with in Europe, but yeah, it was a little different. I mean, having stuff on, they had a DAT tape with, effects and sounds and all this other stuff, and almost like a click track. So you were playing on stage almost to a click track from the keyboarder. The keyboard player was the one who ran everything. So yeah, that was a little different, but it was fun. That was a real heavy album. Yeah. It just didn't take off because I think even White Zombie at the time was getting really big. They just behind them in a way, so
right,
really take off.
Yeah, Skrew is definitely one of those bands that I remember seeing in like the metal magazines, and you would kind of see here and there, and you knew what they were up to, but I guess they just didn't break through. I guess to everybody as much as they maybe should have, kind of because they were the right time, kind of right style, right time. So I don't see why they didn't. break
Yeah.
through to the next level.
And it happens, sometimes the door just shuts right in front of you.
Right.
Yeah, trying to punch through the noise, right, of everything else that's going on, I mean, I think that's the thing about when we started our thrash scene. It was a small community, but it was very connected, right? Through the tape trading, through the fanzines. When MTV hit, of course, everything went to a much bigger level, like you say, of White Zombies coming out. Now, it's Beavis and Butthead, and it's a whole other level of international appeal, which is great. Obviously, if you can get in and get sucked into that tailwind is awesome. Today, like you even said at the beginning of the interview here, trying to start a band, you'd think that with the internet it would be easier, but it actually sometimes makes it harder, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got other bands, everybody can make records or make songs, whatever. And even a new record, just when a new album drops, just trying to punch through all the noise that's out there, whether it's politics or 15 other bands or whatever is going on. So you're trying to do everything you can to get attention. I mean, I don't know. And what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I guess from the old days to now.
I think the problem is it's very flooded, the market, because now guys can just make an album on their own. And I'm doing it myself now. You can get it printed, you get a CD printed. You didn't have to go through what we went through to really stand out in the early days, because you needed a record company. You couldn't make a vinyl record at home. Compact discs weren't even invented yet. So you really needed that record company. You went through playing out and getting the band to the next step. Now you get a couple of guys together on your block, you put some stuff into a laptop, and you're ready to send it off to get printed. So the competition end of it is just so more intense now to stand out. And like you said, you do have the internet to help you get to that next step, but then so does everybody else.
Right.
So it's a plus is to try and get maybe some guys that have got a name to help you break through, but then you also deal with the guys being in 5 bands.
Yeah. I know that one. I'm in about 3 or 4 at least. So
Yeah.
I know it.
I was about to say only 3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, look, and for me, it's the fun of it now. You know what I mean? I've had one big group, and done that, and so for me, it's the fun of doing it, But it's the same thing, like you said, get the fellows from the neighborhood, put something together, and go play, and then it's like, does it pop or not? Well, that I guess determines if you want to do album 2 or 3 or how much more you want to keep doing.
Plus, we can't rely on record sales anymore.
No, not at all.
I mean, now you've got to go out and you've got to play. So you've got to do shows and have good merchandise. And that's the only thing that's really sustaining us. So that's why a lot of these guys are in 2, 3, 4 different bands, because you got to keep working. There's really no sales.
Yeah, I was explaining that to a manager friend of mine. I said, listen, when you're in one big group, if you're lucky, that will support your lifestyle. You can pay your bills off that. Hopefully you don't even have to have a job. A lot of people do. A lot of people, when they come off the stage, they go back home to their trade work. They're plumbers, they're construction guys, they work in finance, whatever they do. It's just what it is. And then music kind of becomes the second gig. But yeah, for anyone else, to even if you were in a big group, a lot of guys, they do need to do a bunch of different stuff in order to pay the bills. It's a constant hustle, and guys are working harder than ever, to pay bills. So and look, it's for the love of playing, right? It's for the love of doing what we do, I think.
Yeah.
It's sorry to move on. Let's jump up to Vio-lence real quick, because I wanted to bring up something. I believe Vio-lence was the first show that I saw kind of post-COVID. We're starting to go see shows again. I went up to Chicago, saw you guys at Reggie's, sold out crowd, but it was still early in like people kind of going to shows again. And it was a weird kind of being in a crowded room again after, this quote unquote pandemic. It was crazy to kind of be just in a small room with, a sold out show, and being like, this feels weird, but it feels good to kind of be back in a room.
Yeah, that Reggie show, that probably was about our 3rd show. We did the first show we did in Fresno, I went out to California January of 2020, and that's exactly when COVID hit and everything got shut down. So we had to wait for all that to pass before we did our first show in Fresno, which wound up being like a super spreader show because I got COVID, Phil had COVID, and Harry got it. A bunch of people got it. It was horrible. So by the time that kind of settled down a little bit, we played Atlanta the night before and then flew up to Chicago and did Reggie's. So that was pretty much like our third show. But that was great. That was the first time I played Reggie's. And, we went back one other time since then, but we did little pockets of shows here and there with the band, and that was about it.
Was your relationship with Perry kind of what got you into Vio-lence in 2020?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was him and Sean mostly wanted me in the band. They wanted to get somebody who had a name, and they hit me up. I think even before they had talked to Phil, and I was willing to do it. I was like, yeah, this would be great.
Yeah, it's it's funny. Phil's another guy between Vio-lence. He's out with Gary King. I just saw him over in Europe, a couple weeks back when Kerry was starting his tour over there. And, it's funny how so many of us, we just sort of move around. I mean, look, I played bass in Overkill last year, right? So it's and it was funny because Megadeth, Anthrax, and Overkill were all down there, and not any one of those bands had their original bass players in them, So, it's because, Frank was not playing and Anthrax, Dan Loker was, so it was just kind of a funny shifting of the, it's like when you got the guy with the 3 rocks and you go, who's under which rock, one of those, one of those. So, well, look, man, thanks so much, Bobby, for coming on, dude. It's good to see you again. And I look forward to seeing some photos from you and Maria just to kind of go back down memory lane. And like I say, most of them are like, where the hell was this from? Like, what were we doing here? They're not even old memories. They're new memories from old photos,
Yeah. Talk to someone you haven't seen for a while that was on tour with you. He'll have plenty of stories you forgot.
I know. I mean, we could probably wax Phyllis out. I can't tell you what. Give us one more good piece, Sells. From that tour that we did together in 1987. You got another good zinger that we can close out with.
Let's see. There's one thing I remember. I'm so glad you guys took that picture on the back of the album with the 4 of you guys looking good, because there was a ton of girls at all those shows. And that made me happy. After 2 months of being in Europe with Halloween, to come back, have 3 days off, and then start up with you guys in Tampa, and just seeing all the American girls going crazy at your shows, that was a good gift you guys gave us.
Nice.
For me, I was the single guy in the band, so it was a gift to me.
That's funny. Yeah, we were a good-looking band. We played good. We were good. We were a decent-looking band. For a thrash band. You know what I mean? That's
and I still say to this day, time your buzz.
Time your buzz. Remember that? That was always my thing. Time your buzz.
Time your buzz before you go on stage.
Yep. Time your buzz. You don't want to get too ahead of your buzz, because that could make for a shitty show. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're gonna be close to me down here at Piper's pretty soon.
Yeah, I'll see you on the Kings of Thrash tour. Yep, that sounds great, man. Let's go hang, and that would be great. Yeah, that sounds good, man. Awesome.
Sure,
I look forward to that. So, all right,
I'm gonna give Bobby some kudos for the dedication to the Giants in the background there, with the actual painting of the room the right color. I like that.
Yeah, I think I heard some good things about this year. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's turned into the band room.
Nice. That's good. All right, brother. Well, listen, good to chat. I look forward to seeing you here in October, and let's go from there. Rock on, man.
Yeah, brother.
See you. Yeah.
See you guys soon.
Bye.
Later.
Yep, bye.
Bobby.